Hi you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome in. You guys, if you're returning, welcome back. If you're new to my YouTube channel, hi guys, my name is Julia Creations. I'm the budget coach that makes budgeting easy and simple for you. Once again, I am not a financial advisor, just a disclaimer. I teach people how to budget based off the methods that worked for me and what I recommend to people that are starting their budget journey using the products that I have created. So welcome in you guys. Hello. I feel like last Wednesday was so long ago, but we're gonna be jumping into a fun video. I do have a video like this for my weekly budget babes, but today we're gonna be focusing on bi-weekly budget babes. I did a poll and most of my clients are bi-weekly, so I tried to incorporate a video that helps every single person on their financial journey depending on what they're working on and what they're going through. But today we're going to be talking about how to stop overspending, how to deal with impulsive spending, and how to track your expenses. I do have a quiz on my website where we go through and we talk about pain points and things that we may need help with or things that we struggle with when it comes to budgeting. And a lot of people say they have trouble when it comes to tracking their expenses and managing their day-to-day spending. So I'm going to be talking about how we're going to reduce that for my bi-weekly budget babes. I'm so sorry you guys, my dog is currently playing with his toy when I want to work, so if you guys hear him, that's him in the background. I apologize. I don't like to tell him to stop because he doesn't like playing with toys often, so when he does, I try to let him do it. So anywho, we're going to be jumping into this budget, you guys, and I'm so excited. We have our 12-month budget planner. We have our calendar book, which is separate. I also provide all of these tools from the calculators to the planners on my place of business, you guys, which is juliacreations.com if you are interested in any of this. But we're going to be doing a sequel from our previous budget, you guys, that I set up for the month. So if you guys watched my video on how to budget a month ahead, we're going to be going through and talking about how we would track our expenses based on this budget. So this was everything we're supposed to be paid for the month of September. And I also noticed on here that I made a little oopsie here. It's supposed to be 9/19, not 9/15. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is talk about our first paycheck. If you're not documenting your first paycheck and you're paid bi-weekly, this is where a lot of stress comes in, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm short for the next 2 weeks. So this is the paycheck that we bring in, our first paycheck of the month, and then this is where we don't get paid again. So this has to cover us all the way from the 5th to the 19th, and a lot of you guys feel like that's too long, it's too overpowering, and you just feel like you can't make it through. So let's talk about habits that you can do to make sure that you get the most out of this money and it stretches accordingly, and how you can track this to make sure you are stretching it. So once again, guys, this is our monthly budget for the month. I didn't do a calendar for this budget because we were focusing on how to do a month ahead. But the calendar, definitely want to make sure you're doing that and incorporating that into your budget. It makes it so much easier to know the dates of everything. So here was our monthly budget. This is how much we brought in for the month. Here's how much is supposed to go out for the month. Here's how much is supposed to go in our savings. And this is that broken down in between each paycheck. So September 1st to September 7th, the first week of the month has already passed. It is currently September 17th. So we're going to talk about what it's like going through spending for the span of 2 weeks, you guys. We're going to go ahead and set up that whole process and talk about what we spent these last 2 weeks. And we're also going to incorporate a daily spending challenge. So for my people that struggle with making impulsive spends and all of those things, I do have recommended this on my shorts, or I have recommended this on my shorts, and I have recommended this on my weekly budget tracker to do the daily spending challenge. Like, once again, guys, a lot of my content is going to be very repetitive, not because not necessarily because just I want to keep making the same things, but sometimes we are bringing a lot of new budget babes that are finding my page, and I have a lot of videos and I want to talk about things that they can use that will make it easier for them if they're new here. And then honestly, budgeting is very repetitive and it's kind of boring because you're doing a routine. You're doing something you've never done before and you're trying to learn. So sometimes we go over a lot of the same things because it's beneficial to my clients and it helps them stick. So a client may be watching this that has fell off on their budget and they said, oh, I could do a daily spending challenge and this is going to help me. So I just like to make sure I incorporate those type of things into my content, because once again, not only am I just making budget videos, you guys, I'm actually taking clients every single week and I'm helping them get on track with their finances. And I like to put things to remind them through my content, just because budgeting isn't linear. It's an up and down process, and as long as you have the tools, you'll be guided. So we're going to talk about how to set up a daily spending challenge as well. If you guys have already watched this video, you already know what I recommend for the daily spending challenge, but we're going to go ahead and set this up. So even if you're already past your first week of the month, you can still set up your daily spending challenge. What you're going to go ahead and do is set up a blank calendar, and we're going to put this as September, and we're going to go ahead and write this down. So this is how we're going to document what we're spending every single day. It's a fun method to do if you struggle with spending every single day and you're trying to control yourself. Now, I'm going to be honest, I do this challenge on myself, but I do it every single week and just do a week check-in. I don't like doing it every single day. But for you guys that need a little bit more structure and you struggle with making a transaction, whether it's cash, whether it's card, if you are doing cash, make sure you are keeping your receipts, you guys, because sometimes you think cash is free money and it's not. It's still a part of your finances. So you just want to make sure you're documenting that, and this could be your card, your debit card, whatever it is. We're going to go ahead and document it in this calendar for the next 30 days. So if you are starting this process, we'll still be able to show you how we're going to do that with the days that have already passed, and then how you incorporate this into your budget. But let's go ahead and pull our bank statements from the last few days, and we're going to go ahead and set up our expense tracker so we can see what we've been spending on our first paycheck of the month. Okay. All right, you guys, so let's talk about how to set up our expense tracker if we are paid bi-weekly. I like to do the 2 paycheck method on this expense tracker. This is the fun thing. If you guys are new to expense tracking, what expense tracking does is document every single transaction you make. So in this budget planner, we have a fun way that we expense track, which is my favorite, and we're gonna break our things down into 3 different categories. So we have our expenses: planned, unplanned, and impulsive. These are going to be: planned is everything in our budget, unplanned is emergencies that happen in our budget, and impulsive is anything that wasn't in our budget. So because we're doing a bi-weekly budget, what you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to write this for the month of September, because we are doing September, and I want you to put paycheck number 1, and then on this side you're going to put paycheck number 2. So I'm going to put paycheck number 2, and this is how we're going to document what we spent on both paychecks. And this will try to motivate you just to use 1 sheet per paycheck. If it doesn't happen, you need additional sheets, you can definitely set that up as well, you guys. So paycheck number 1 and paycheck number 2, and we're going to be focusing on paycheck number 1 right now. We have 2 paychecks in the month since we're paid bi-weekly. Paycheck number 1, and then we also have paycheck number 2. So now we're going to document what we've spent on that paycheck, and this is where you pull your bank statements. Okay. All right, so now that we're going to pull our bank statement, you guys, and we're going to write down everything we spent from the day we got paid. So according to our budget planner, we got paid on the 5th, so we want to write down everything from the 5th. Everything before will go in your other expense tracker from the previous month. So we're going to go ahead and start with 9/5, and we're going to go ahead and write down what we spent. So every single time we get paid, we put $750 up for rent. So this will go to the next month's rent, and that way we're using 2 checks to pay rent. The outcome for this is going to be planned. Remember, planned is everything that's in your budget for the month, you guys. Unplanned are going to be things, emergencies, and impulsive is anything that wasn't in your budget. All right. And then on the 5th of the month, we had our car payment come out, which is going to be $230, and this is our car payment. That is going to be a planned expense. We planned to pay for that car payment. Sorry guys, everybody that wants to pass by wants to have a heavy motor today. All right, then we got 9/6. We spent $87 on groceries. And remember, you guys, it should match your budget for the week. So this is everything we plan to spend with this paycheck. So groceries, we plan to spend $175 every 2 weeks. Remember, this is everything from basically the 5th until the 19th. So we're basically setting up our budget for this, but this is what we're actually spending. So we're going to put 87 for groceries. And this is going to be planned. So we plan to spend that much on groceries. All right. And then we got 9/6 again. We went ahead and spent $25 on eating out. I was laughing in the comments because one of you guys commented under my videos, and you're saying how I always say when people get paid, they go out to eat. And I said, like, yeah, you should go out to eat for your budget if it's in your budget. And one of my clients was laughing in the comments. She was like, not me eating out right now. After you said that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are funny. So then we got 9/7, we got 180, which is going to be our car insurance, as long as it's in the budget. Look, as long as it's in the budget, I don't mind how you do it or when you do it, okay? So we're going to put this as planned. And then we also fill up our gas tank. So our gas tank was $35, and we're gonna go ahead and put this as gas, of course, and this was a planned expense. Now everything doesn't go as planned, you guys. Actually put what you're spending. It's gonna be different per person depending on what your expenses are and how much you actually spend. So of course we want to have more planned than anything else, but if anything changes, we need to be documenting that in our budget. Okay, so that is our first week of the our first week. And I know you guys are thinking, well, don't we not get paid again, so we have to cover for 2 weeks? Yep, but we're still gonna follow our weekly template in this budget so we can document what we're spending per week. So this is the 1st to the 7th, so we're gonna document everything we spent from the 5th to the 7th, basically, just because payday fell on that Friday. So we're just documenting that here, you guys, just so you can keep it organized and you can kind of tally up what you spent Monday through Sunday. So go ahead and section this off, and we're gonna go ahead and add this up just to see where we're at. So this helps us manage our spending. So we have 750 plus 230 plus 87 plus 25 plus 180 plus 35 is going to be 1307 is what we spent so far on our first week of the month, because technically it's our first paycheck and that's the first week. So we're gonna go ahead and put this as week number 1, or you don't have to write week number 1. It's still gonna cover on paycheck number 1. We're just breaking it down per week. All right, so now this is where we go in and we do our spending calendar. So guys, remember our payday fell on the 5th. But you may have spent money before then. You may have had leftover money from the previous month that you were spending to cover any bills or expenses that came out. As you can see, rent is always due on the 1st. So rent would have had to be covered with our previous 2 checks of August. So that's why that's not documented on here. So we're going to focus on everything from when we got paid so we can document our paychecks. But if you still want to go back and see what you spent earlier this month, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and document things. We're not going to document bills, you guys. We're only going to document spending on here because bills are a part of our planned expenses. We want to document and see where we have any unplanned. So we're going to go ahead and put 0 for the 5th because those were bills due on that day. On the 6th, we spent $87 on groceries and $25 on eating out. 87 plus 25. In the span of 2 days, we spent $112 on those. So you see it just helping you document what you're spending. Then we had car insurance, which is our bill, so we're not going to worry about that. And then on the calendar, we're going to go ahead and put $35 because that's all we spent on that day. So you see how we're able to document our daily spending compared to our expense tracker. So this is our first paycheck. Those are the bills we covered, and here is just our daily spending so we can monitor it. Even though this stuff is in our budget, it's still good to see it on a calendar so that way you're aware of what you spent on that day. So that way you're not like, okay, when did I fill up my tank? When did I do this? When did I do that? So that's how you document it in your calendar. So now we're going to go to that week where we don't get paid, right? We're still using the income of paycheck number 1. If we brought in $17.50 for the week already, so $17.50 minus $13.07, we've already spent $13.07 of our check. We have $443 left. So we still have money budgeted for us in this in our tracker here for the next 2 weeks, you guys. Our goal is to put $105 up from this savings. We have $443 left, and if we minus 105 from that, that means we still have $338 in our budget for all these other things. So let's document what comes out between the 8th and the 14th of this week. So we're going to go ahead and document that and pull our bank statements. All right, you guys. So now we're going to go ahead and go to our next week. And we're going to write down everything that we spent from the 8th until the 14th because it just falls on that week we don't get paid. You can just all put it on one sheet, you guys, but I still just like to break it down in categories so you can see on a weekly basis what you're spending even if you're paid bi-weekly. So we're going to go ahead and write down what we spent. So on 9/8 we spent $75 on our phone bill. And this would be a planned expense. And then 9/10 we spent $7 on coffee, which would be impulsive just because we don't have a coffee budget. This could be a part of your spending budget, but I'm going to put it as impulsive just because when I do my budget, I like to put coffee as impulsive if I can make it at home. but it could technically fall under your spending budget. But if you're trying to document yourself from doing something, it helps doing that as well. On the 11th, we had our credit card minimum due, which was $75. And this was our credit card minimum, which we planned in a budget. And this is good to document it. And we're going to put this as planned. And I always get a question, do we have to put our bills in our expense tracker since we have the bill payment sheet? It's totally up to you if you want to put your bills in there. I think it's good because when you add up everything you spent for the month, it's going to be really nice to just have it in there. And then we re-upped on groceries again, which is $88. And this is going to be for groceries. And this is going to be a planned expense. And then we have, on the 13th, we got gas again. $35. It's going to be gas. And this is planned. And then on the 13th, we also spent $50 on shopping, which is going to be planned just because we did have a shopping budget. But if that wasn't in our budget, it would be on the unplanned section. And then we also did eating out, which was also in our budget. It's $25. If eating out isn't in your budget and you ate out, make sure you put it in your expense tracker and put the outcome as impulsive. And then last but not least, we had a subscription come out on the 16th, which that we didn't document, which was $15. And this is going to be unplanned because technically it wasn't impulsive. We didn't impulsively get a subscription. It was an unplanned expense because it wasn't in our budget. We didn't quote for it in our budget, but it was a part of something that came up. So that way we can document it. Okay, perfect. So there's our impulsive and then our unplanned that we had for this week. Okay. Alright, you guys, before we add everything up that we spent for the week, we're going to go ahead and do our spending calendar and write down what we spent. On the 8th, we didn't have anything because it was a bill. And then on the 9th, let's see here, on the 9th, we didn't spend anything, so we'll zero out. On the 10th, we had $7 for coffee. On the 11th, we had our credit card minimum. That's going to be part of our bill range. And then we had $88 on groceries. On the 13th, or on the, oopsie, this was a 0 day. Sorry, you guys. On the 13th, we had $88 for groceries. Let's add this up. 88 for groceries, 35 for gas, and then we had $50 for shopping. So on the 13th, we actually spent $173. All right. And then the 14th, we spent $25 on eating out. And then on the 16th, we had a subscription. So we'll go ahead and put the subscription on there just because the subscriptions add up. I want you guys to see those subscriptions too. So we're going to add the subscriptions in there. So there's everything we spent the first 2 weeks of the month on our calendar. Our next payday will fall on the 19th. But if we do have anything that comes in between these next 2 days, we're going to make sure we document it on this calendar as well and in our expense tracker. So that's everything we spent on our daily challenge. So now let's go back to our expense tracker and add this up for this week. Okay, so let's see everything we spent for this week. From the 8th into the 16th. You technically could keep this open, you guys, from the 8th into the 19th, but we're just gonna go ahead and close it off. But just because we're doing this video today, but if you do have any other transactions, you want to make sure you add it up in here. So we're gonna go ahead and close this off from the 8th into the 16th. And if you guys are wondering how we got those numbers again, or those dates, you basically look at when your next payday falls. Remember, this is for our first paycheck of the month and it's covering us from this time frame, and then we don't get paid again until the 19th. So we're just documenting that here. So 75 plus 7 plus 75 plus 88 plus 35 plus 50 plus 25 plus 15. We spent the total of $370 this week. So we're going to go ahead and put $370 this week. And now we're going to compare it to the budget we set. So this paycheck We brought in $17.50, and then we spent a total of $370 plus $13.07, because that's what we spent that first week. We spent the total of $16.77. Our budget we quoted to spend was $16.45, so you can see we went over just by a little bit. So $16.75 minus $16.45, we did a $32 difference. So $105 minus 32, we'll only be saving $73 this paycheck. So that's why it's important to document that, and we're going to go ahead and write it on here. Total expenses for this paycheck. And this allows you to see if you have more impulsiveness, that means we need to change it. Our total of expenses for this paycheck total to, what was it again? $13.07 plus $370 is $16.77. So $16.77 is our full expense total, which means our savings we're going to be able to put in our savings. We brought in $17.50 minus $16.77. We get to save $73 this paycheck. Isn't that so much better than just going through and spending every day and not knowing what you're saving or how much you actually do? So a lot of budget templates, they have a budget versus actual. I like to do it in the expense tracker so you can document what actually happened. That way it's not like, oh, I just accidentally spent this. You can actually see each transaction. So we haven't got paid again for the 19th, but the 19th paycheck, we'll go ahead and document all of that here. So that's as easy and simple as it is, you guys, to document your weekly spending and break it down. So even if you're paid bi-weekly, this still lets you see how much you should be spending. So this was the goal that we set. This is what we actually did. So there's no difference first the budget versus actual, but putting it in your expense tracker to make sure you're on track. So doing this and having your daily challenge side by side is going to help you track your expenses better. So if you feel like you suck at tracking your expenses and you really don't know where your money's going, you're gonna try this side by side and it should help. So sorry you guys, I got the hiccups. So track your expenses for your first paycheck, and then go through and do the daily spending challenge. Sorry you guys, I think the hiccups are gone. So go through and do your daily spending challenge and go through and update your expense tracker, and this will allow you to know where your money is going every single paycheck if you feel like you blow through your paychecks and you're trying to figure out where your money goes. Okay, and then use your template to work on it and track your spending. Sorry guys, I still have the hiccups. Okay, guys, I think my hiccups finally decided to leave. Sorry, I was deep into thought and I didn't want to have to re-record that spot, so I just wanted to keep going. But once again, guys, this is how we would do our expense tracker to document and track our expenses. If you're very bad at tracking your expenses, you can always start with the daily calendar and then go through on your expense tracker. I think they go hand in hand. There's nothing wrong with going through and writing down what you spend every single day, but I know you guys have lives outside of just doing your budget, so sometimes it can feel overwhelming trying to do it day by day. But even if you just take time to write down what total you spent in your calendar and then break that down, it's still able to hold yourself accountable and see where you're spending and see where you need to adjust. For these impulsive spends, you can go through and take this money from your actual budget. So for example, here in this budget that we were doing, we had our spending for $50 or eating out for $40 for the week. As you can see, we did go over about $10 on that eating out, but it's still not impulsive because our eating out budget for the month is $80. So you just want to monitor your budget and see how everything is adding up. So when we do impulsive and unplanned, it's only going to be impulsive if it goes over your full budget for the month. So if it's easier for you to write down your impulsiveness by each week, I still like to dock it for the month. So if your eating out budget is $80 for the month and you spend the first 2 weeks and you run through that $80, you just won't be able to have it your last 2 weeks of the month. So that will become impulsive. But if you want to get even more strict with yourself and say, hey, I'm sticking to this $80 every week and I don't want to go over that $80 even if I have $80 for the month, you'll go through and just document it and put that it's impulsive so you can stop yourself from doing it. But the goal is to have a document of your transactions that you're making for the month and having control. This is why we do those outcome sections, because if you're able to see this, you know where you need to stop. Okay, so if you're going over these budgets or the numbers aren't aligning, you need to figure out where you need to adjust it. And if you do have an unplanned expense that throws you off, you can always cut something from your budget moving forward. So we just want to make sure we're documenting that and seeing that. But that is how you'll go through and track your expenses and get better with that if you're paid bi-weekly. Once again, you'll have the second week to do this and make adjustments, but it's so important to do this per paycheck, because if you did have a whole bunch of impulsive spending this week, you can redeem yourself on your second paycheck. You might just have to adjust your spending or whatever it is for your budget that you have for the second week. Okay, so you'll go through and document this after you get your next paycheck. So everything from the 19th will go on this paycheck until we get paid again. So that way we just have a copy of everything that we're spending and we're aware. We can't make adjustments if we don't know what's going on. So that's why it's so important to put this in here and work with that. So I'm going to end this video, you guys. I hope this video was helpful for everybody that has trouble when it comes to tracking your expenses. If you have something that you're going to try in the comments, please let me know. If you are using cash, you guys, I still recommend making sure you're tracking your cash, because you can still blow through cash even if you separate it. It's still something just to look at and make sure you're documenting it, and that way you're not regretting any of your purchases. Or if you're taking something from cash that may have been in your spending budget or your eating out budget and an unplanned expense comes up and you use it for that, it's good to document it. Usually when we have unplanned expenses, those come from the savings, but if you have the money still left in your account, we still use it, and then at the end of the week we can see exactly how much we're going to save. But thank you guys again for watching. I will be back next Wednesday with another video, and once again, all these products can be purchased at juliacreations.com if this is something that's interested in for you starting your budget journey and getting on track with your finances. And I will see you guys on my next video. Once again, thank you guys again for watching. Bye, my loves.